For nearly 30 years, Jess and I lived a life that felt stable, full of contentment and the kind of happiness that comes with familiarity. Both 49, our shared history began in college, unfolding in the carefree rhythm of a young romance. It wasn't long before that blossomed into a committed relationship, culminating in a grand church wedding surrounded by friends and family who cheered us on. Our honeymoon in Hawaii felt like a perfect prologue to the life we were about to build, days spent basking in the sun, sipping coconut water, and swimming in aquamarine seas. Jess, with her stunning, runway-worthy beauty, often left me wondering how I'd gotten so lucky. Tall and graceful, with flowing blonde hair and a smile that could light up any room, Jess was the type of woman who naturally drew attention, even as we approached middle age. Heads still turned when she walked into a room, and while younger men sometimes cast admiring glances, I never felt threatened. Jess never gave me any reason to feel insecure. Our marriage seemed genuine, a partnership built on mutual respect, love, and shared experiences. Together, we moved through life, overcoming challenges and celebrating milestones. After a decade, we secured our own apartment, the result of careful planning and hard work. A decade later, we helped our son settle into his own place with his college girlfriend. I took pride in our shared achievements and the life we'd built. Jess was more than just my wife, she was my best friend, my confidant. But life has a way of shifting when you least expect it. One day, Jess mentioned that her old friend, Carla, would be visiting. Carla had moved to Alaska after her wedding and rarely came to town. When she did, she and Jess usually caught up at a cafe or restaurant. This time, however, Jess suggested they spend time at our home and politely asked me to step out for a while. It wasn't unusual, Jess and I had always respected each other's space and social circles. I agreed, not thinking much of it. The day of Carla's visit started like any other Saturday. Jess asked me to set up the table and take out our nicest dishes, a ritual we usually reserved for special guests. She planned to pick up Carla from the airport, and after a day of shopping in town, they would return to our house for an evening of wine and sushi. With the preparations done, I left the house to give them the space Jess had requested. I spent the next few hours taking a long walk, visiting some familiar spots in the neighborhood, and allowing myself the quiet joy of reminiscing. The sun cast a warm, golden light over the streets, and everything felt peaceful. I thought about our life together, our shared memories, the laughter, and the trust that had become second nature over nearly 3 decades. By the time evening approached, I decided to stop by the store and pick up some groceries. As I moved through the aisles, I called Jess to check if we needed anything else. The call connected, and we exchanged a few brief words before saying goodbye. But she didn't hang up. Instead, the line remained open, and to my surprise, I could hear her voice and Carla's laughter in the background. Curiosity tugged at me, and without meaning to eavesdrop, I kept listening as I filled my basket. Their conversation started off light, filled with typical gossip about old friends and who was dating or breaking up. But then, their topics shifted to more personal territory. I felt a slight unease as they began discussing their marriages, comparing notes on intimacy and relationships. Carla's voice took on a melancholy tone as she mentioned that she hadn't been intimate with her husband for 2 years and had started seeing someone else from work. The guilt in her voice was evident, and she expressed fear about her husband finding out. Jess's response stopped me cold. Her voice, calm and almost casual, suggested that she had known about Carla's situation all along. But the real shock came when Carla, with a mix of curiosity and admiration, asked how Jess had managed to conceal her own affairs from me for so many years while keeping our marriage seemingly strong. My heart felt like it had stopped. I stood there, stunned, gripping the handle of the shopping cart as if it could anchor me in place. Jess didn't hesitate. She launched into an explanation, recounting her infidelities with an ease that turned my stomach. She spoke about how the first time she had cheated was just 3 years after our wedding, and the last time had been 2 years ago. Carla asked how many affairs there had been, and while Jess couldn't pinpoint an exact number, she highlighted 4 that had stood out to her. Jess described each relationship in vivid, painful detail. There was a young man 10 years her junior whom she had met at 33 and carried on with for months. They would meet at a hotel after she suggested it during one of their walks. She treated him as a casual fling, warning him not to develop feelings. It ended abruptly when he confessed love, something she hadn't wanted. Another affair unfolded during a trip to France with her girlfriends, where she met a foreigner. Their encounters, unconventional and cautious, fizzled out before she returned home. The most crushing revelation was about our son's soccer coach. Jess admitted she would meet him in his office, describing in explicit terms the time they spent together. The memory of her talking so openly, so casually about such moments made my blood run cold. Carla's response, a wistful comment about having memories for old age, only deepened the betrayal. Passers-by in the grocery store shot me odd glances as I stood there, motionless. I didn't care. It felt like my entire life had unraveled in that moment. My fingers fumbled to press the record button on the call, needing proof, something tangible to confront her with later. I spent the next hour listening to every sordid detail, each word from Jess carving into me with brutal precision. She spoke about these affairs not as past mistakes, but as memories that brought her a strange pride. The realization that my wife had spent years leading this double life, while I remained blissfully unaware, shattered any illusions I had about our marriage. My walk home was robotic, each step a battle to keep the rage and hurt in check. When I finally stepped inside, the house felt different, like a place that no longer belonged to me. The warmth and comfort it once held were replaced with the bitter sting of betrayal. Carla had already left, and Jess was in the kitchen, washing dishes, a picture of domesticity that now felt grotesquely ironic. She looked up, smiled, and asked how my day had gone. The ordinary nature of her question felt like an insult. I told her it had been fine, my voice even, giving no hint of the storm raging inside me. Jess went to bed early, calling out for me to join her, but I declined, unable to face her without breaking down or exploding in anger. I sat in the kitchen for hours, the recording playing on loop in my head, unable to reconcile the woman I had shared my life with and the one who had casually recounted years of infidelity to her friend. At around 3 a.m., unable to bear the silence or my own thoughts any longer, I went to our room and woke her up. Jess blinked, confused and sleepy, as she sat up, rubbing her eyes. But her confusion quickly turned to shock as I started speaking. I didn't hold back, I listed out everything I had heard, down to the intimate details that she had shared so shamelessly. Her face turned pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. It wasn't guilt I saw but fear, the fear of consequences, of her life unraveling. She reached for my hand, starting to babble excuses, talking about how she had been confused or filling a void she couldn't explain. The words felt meaningless, like static noise. I yanked my hand away and told her coldly that whatever she had to say was irrelevant. The trust was broken, and I didn't care for her justifications. All I could manage to say was that on Monday, we would be filing for divorce. Her pleading began, promises pouring out that she would change, that she could be the wife I deserved. But I had already seen her true nature. I told her that she could go on and fill whatever void she claimed to have with whomever she pleased, but it wouldn't be with me. The bed that had once been ours now felt like a place of betrayal, a reminder of everything that had been taken from me. Jess didn't sleep that night, and neither did I. When the first light of dawn broke through the curtains, the weight of what was to come settled on both of us. On Monday, just as I promised, we went to file for divorce. The look in her eyes was a mix of despair and resignation. But I didn't waver. The years of deceit had left no room for forgiveness or second chances. The days following our visit to the divorce lawyer felt both surreal and crushingly real. Jess tried repeatedly to reach out, pleading for reconciliation, but my resolve didn't waver. Every memory of our life together, every shared laugh and intimate moment, was tainted now. The years we had spent building a home, raising our son, and supporting each other seemed like a farce. I couldn't stand the thought of going back to a life built on lies. Word of the impending divorce spread quickly among our friends and family. When I explained why, sharing snippets of the recording I had taken, there was a mix of shock and anger directed at Jess. My adult son, who had always held his mother in high esteem, was devastated when he found out the truth. He refused to speak to her, siding with me completely. It was as if the betrayal Jess had inflicted upon me reverberated throughout our entire family, severing bonds that once seemed unbreakable. For Jess, the fallout was swift and severe. She not only lost her husband but also the respect of our son and the connection she had with her extended family. She tried to make amends, sending messages and letters that ranged from tearful apologies to desperate attempts at self-justification. But each attempt only reinforced my decision. There was no salvaging what had been destroyed. Months passed, and as the divorce was finalized, a strange sense of relief settled over me. The pain remained, sharp and persistent, but the weight of pretending, of trying to piece together a broken trust, was lifted. I sold half of the property we divided in the settlement and used my share to buy a small house outside the city. The new place, surrounded by trees and quiet, became my sanctuary, a space where I could rebuild without the constant reminders of what I had lost. The impact on Jess was profound. Stripped of the life she once knew, she struggled to find solace in fleeting relationships and casual flings, but they only deepened her loneliness. The realization that her choices had led her to this place hit hard. The temporary thrill of those affairs could never replace the stability and love she had thrown away. While my family's support was unwavering, their anger toward Jess was something she had to bear on her own. The hardest blow for her was the estrangement from our son. His refusal to forgive or even speak to her was a punishment far heavier than any legal consequence. Jess's regret was palpable, but it was too late to undo the damage. With time, the sting of betrayal dulled, replaced by a quiet determination to move forward. I rediscovered small joys, long walks in nature, evenings with friends, and the freedom of living without secrets. I hadn't yet found the strength to open my heart to new love, but I was okay with that. Healing took time, and for now, I found peace in solitude. The scars of betrayal remain, etched deeply into who I am, but they don't define me. I learned that even after the deepest hurt, there is a path forward. It may not be the one you planned, but it's yours to create. Jess continues to reach out from time to time, messages that go unanswered, attempts at rekindling something that no longer exists. Each day, I grow stronger, more certain that I deserve a life free from deceit and filled with genuine connection. And that knowledge, hard-earned as it is worth everything. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've made it this far, I appreciate your time and support. If this resonates with you or helps in any way, please consider sharing your thoughts or subscribing.